The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Remarkable People Podcast. Today, we have with us our good friend and candidate for governor of Minnesota, Mike Lindell. Mike, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on, David.
It's a pleasure. Just last night, I'm sitting downstairs with two friends. One is from Illinois, one is from Louisiana, and I'm living in Pensacola. And we're just talking about life in general. We're talking about history. We're talking about America today. They have no idea you and I are friends, let alone we're doing a podcast today. But out of the whole country, they bring up the shenanigans going on in Minnesota, how the uniparty is so strong, they don't want a man like Mike Lindell in there. But it's going to take a miracle to get him in, but God's in the business of miracles. So they're talking about from the Congress to the governor existing to the, what's his name?
Keith Ellison, the
Keith
horrible
Ellison,
attorney
sorry.
general.
Yeah, the
The
attorney
most
general.
evil attorney general that ever walked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got like just trifecta of corruption. So let's start here. From the last time we spoke to today has been a long time. So let's talk to our listeners about why it affects every one of us in America, but specifically people in Minnesota. A lot of them have lost hope. And
Right.
we've opened the door and let the enemy in America, but specifically Minnesota. So for the people listening, to encourage their friends in Minnesota, and if they're in Minnesota, to encourage them to vote, that their vote can make a difference. What do you want to say to them so we can start turning Minnesota back to America and God?
Right, yeah, absolutely. And Minnesota is the Trojan horse for something so terrible in this country, and that's Sharia law. That's Muslims practicing Islam in Minnesota and spreading out far and wide. The fraud in Minnesota is one of the biggest blessings Minnesota in this country's ever had, because it's going to open the door, and it already has. People are talking about Sharia law. They're talking about our fraud. They're talking about our crooked government. And this went all the way, like you look in Texas, they have over 100 Christian churches turned into mosques over the last couple of years. This has all been in the news now as this fraud opens itself up. But I will say this, there is hope where, with Minnesota, which is the tip of the spear for most of this that everybody's looking at. Everyone says, I'm not from Minnesota. What does that matter to me? It matters a lot, because you look what's happened overseas when you talk about Islam and what's been going on, the protests and stuff they have over there in London and the UK, going, hey, it might be too late. You let everybody in to take over. We have an opportunity here to put the stops to it, and also to our corrupt government that is exposed. Minnesota, when we went through these last 4 or 5 years, and under this guy that didn't win, that lost the 2020 election and stole it, all the stuff that went on then, the nonsensical things and the attacks on our own citizens by our own government, including MyPillow, by the way, all these things open people's eyes. You've seen it, like in Minnesota, everyone's going, men and women's sports, how about tampons in men's bathrooms? This stuff that was very much exposed when Tim Walz ran for vice president. People got to see this. Evil overplays its hand. And what I'm doing in Minnesota now, I've just pulled 2 straw polls the last couple of days. Number one, with the campaign that I'm doing, going around Minnesota, set up my own campaign, basically. Divided Minnesota into 67 Senate districts. We're working, we have teams in all of them, getting the churches involved and getting the hope out there. They have to know they can win. 500,000 people voted for Donald Trump in 2020 and 2024 in Minnesota that didn't go out and vote in 2022. And it's because there's a lot of people with attitudes going, oh, the midterms don't matter, or what's the use? We're gonna be blue anyway. And it's same old. This is the most important midterm in history. It's critical, not just for the nation, for Minnesota, but for the nation. This is it, everybody. I said the other day, and let's just talk Minnesota now, the highest corporate tax in the nation, highest income tax in the nation, third only to Colorado and California for frivolous regulation. The list goes on and on. And I was actually in Texas because of my name. I can raise the most money, and I have raised the most money as governor. I'm doing an event down there a couple of weeks ago. I said, you guys, I have to win. If I don't win, companies and people are leaving Minnesota, and they're going to head down to Texas, and we're probably not going to send our best. I said, so let's donate some money. And I gave them the old lindellgov.com website. And anyway, that what we're doing is spreading the hope. We have the GOP convention coming up in a week and a half, and this is what's been going on for the last 6 months. All these events that a lot of them I'm not invited to because I'm not going to honor the endorsement. And what they tell you in Minnesota, if you get the endorsement, we want you to drop out. If someone else gets the endorsement, we want you to drop out and of the whole race, the primary that comes up in August. I can't do that, David. I just can't do that because I know the only pathway to win is through me. And I say that if I knew there was a better path, but there's not. When we get to Amy Klobuchar in the general election, you have to be able to raise all kinds of money, and you need to be able to have a marketing plan that has never been done before. We're in a place right now where we're in is I know the marketing plan I have with my 8 million people on my social media on all the platforms, 12 million emails, 2 million phone numbers. This marketing plan, and then going district to district, like I did with MyPillow, working out of the back of a pickup truck and a trailer to every nook and cranny in Minnesota to do home shows and fairs when most people probably would have given up because it was turned down everywhere. I didn't give up. I kept going, and MyPillow gets 85 million MyPillows later, thousands of employees, and the American dream on steroids. To using that same model and bringing people home, people have to know that you can win. They have to know that you can win, so they don't just all same out and just give up. Because Minnesota's been blue since 1972. We haven't had the trifecta since 2006, with our governor and senators and the Congress, or legislators. But this is a chance with this fraud. It's opened up doors no man can shut right now, and we've got to walk through those doors. This all happened on Amy Klobuchar's watch too. But interesting enough, David, the Speaker of the House, Lisa Dameth, which by the way I'm polling ahead of her. There's another People's poll coming out today. I've already heard that I'm polling number one, but she's been around. This is who the establishment wants. You can tell by the media. She's been on your Fox Newses, your Newsmax. She's been on your local media. She's been in our newspaper. They blocked me. They're blocking me. The best I could do was today, CNN did a thing on me to attack me on what the president put out for the fund, put out for the people that were attacked, trying to make it look like Donald Trump's just getting money for his people that backed him. So I'm up against that, but I've been up against that before with the media. So the attacks, by them just blocking and not doing, but I did pass they had went before the committee yesterday, and they drill you and say if you're a good candidate, they do a background check and check all this. They ask you questions, and I said I must pass my background check because I wrote a book about it. And then how are you qualified? I'm saying, have you ever done anything with the country? For the country with it, crisis wise or whatever, or in business. So that was the one I really, shined in. But it's been interesting. One of the things they brought up is that I got to bring up was before all this election stuff and before I got into the politics in 2016 by backing Donald Trump. I had never even voted before, and I had put millions of dollars, MyPillow had myself, into helping people in the inner city, helping people in addiction, helping people that are homeless, and all these things, with pouring millions into that. And one of the things, David, that CNN asked me today, you've seen where the president put out this $1.8 million fund for people that were attacked by the government. It's in the news right now, everybody. And CNN says, Mike, what do you think of this? And how much has has it cost MyPillow? And I said, we have 3 outside auditing firms that looked at it. It's over $400 million. And he said, "What do you think?" I said, "I would not want to take all this fund." I said, "I want people that need it, that were hurt, like my employees that own the company and that." And then I also said, he goes, "Isn't just Donald Trump giving money to his people that backed him, that would not stop backing him, even though with all the things going on and with all the attacks and adversity?" And I said, "You know what?" This was Donnie from CNN. And I said, Donnie Sullivan, I said, just like in Minnesota with all these welfare programs, I said that all the fraud, the money that was taken from them, I said, and everyone's saying, "Oh, the taxpayers, they took 20 some billion from us taxpayers." What about the money that was intended to actually help people? They didn't get the help. And those things were brought in by Democrats. And some of those programs might actually help people. You follow me? So it's like, what makes that any different than here? The president puts out a thing to actually help people that are in need, that have lost everything because of our own government attacking. And so over here, you have other programs Democrats have put in. Some of them might be actually good. I haven't seen one yet that is 100% good return on the investment, but maybe there are some as I keep looking into it. And anyway, he didn't know what to say there. We'll see what he comes out with his article.
Yeah, and that's just it. For years, these problems have been there, and they've been flaunting it in the open. And that's why I have a real problem with politicians. They haven't really done anything for most of them. They really have no resume. They have no loyalty. They've done nothing for our country. And Amy, I don't know her personally, but she was in a huge position of influence and she got nothing done. And this
Right,
was under
absolutely.
her watch.
Yeah.
If someone really looks at the facts, how could you vote for her? For you've been fighting for America despite the media's beating and despite people, it's like everything. You weren't a COVID or vaxxer or mask or no mask. But when that topic came up, all the people who got publicly crucified for
Oh,
saying
I was anti-vaccine. Are you kidding me? I called it the mark of the beast. I was probably one of the biggest one in the country.
well,
I
I'm
called
just
it
saying
the.
that you didn't spend $100 million to defend that. You went to the voting machine.
I went to the fraud, but I also my voice out there when I was very vocal, but you didn't know it because they wouldn't even say that time I called it the mark of the beast. The media wouldn't even take that because they were afraid people wouldn't get vaccinated because I was against it. So
Yeah,
that's another way they silenced me on that.
exactly. And my point going with that is all these things that were common sense, people
Right.
were abused and labeled,
Oh
and they
yeah.
were just afraid to speak up because they
Mhm.
were conspiracy theorists. No,
Right.
they were just sharing their opinion, which they constitutionally, thank God,
Yeah.
have the right to in America. But
Mhm.
now that all the truth is coming out, there's
Right.
zero apology. There
Yeah.
is zero actual accountability. We all know Fauci committed atrocious acts against humanity, and the
Right.
dude's still rich and walking free. So
Right.
for you in Minnesota, you got Keith Ellison and you got Amy and you got all these politicians and you got the freaking communists from Somalia in office and you
Yeah,
have
Elon Omar, and all these in there.
yeah,
But
but
you know what? You know what? I want to give people, David. I want to give people some hope. Yeah, we have all these corrupt politicians, but you know what? Our fight against them. We just had big wins this week. Brad Ratzenberger, who I consider the biggest traitor this country's ever had, down in Georgia. He's out. He got voted out. He's for running for governor, so he's out. The second one, I would say, Robin Vos, who I fought over in Wisconsin, he's out. So a lot of these people now are getting voted out. The president goes down and calls them out, and these horrific politicians that didn't have the people's back, and that's where we're at. And so that is, I think, with these things like the 2020 election, I still say it'll be is one of the most important things to ever happen to the country and the world, because that's the one that opened everything up. Everybody, where we had 4 years of all eyes on this craziness of and it opened people's eyes both and to say how important politics are when you can have evil making decisions that you have a lot of non-decisions made in politics over the years, and everyone just sits by, oh, yeah, this is up over here and this is here. I'm just going to go along with it. Then it went so extreme, you're going, wow, we better wake up and we better start getting it. That's why getting our voting systems down, securing them is so important. It's the most important thing there is. Because remember, you wouldn't even have to worry about term limits, everybody. If you had 100% secure elections, I want everybody to follow this. If you have 100% secure elections and people are voted in based on merit, okay? And you would want someone that keeps doing a good job over and over to vote him in. And you would also want to vote someone out right away if they're doing a bad job. Other than you got in Washington, all the ones that aren't even voted in or out that are there, that the swamp to get them up. But when you talk about term limits, for me, I'm going, you know what? Just like they're talking, oh, it'd be great if Donald Trump could get a third term. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about is if this is how it's so important to secure our elections. And it brought up to me, David, even on that call, the guy goes that I was with the committee for the GOP. He goes, Mike, you come with a lot of baggage. All your evidence and your conspiracy theory, you're still in lawsuits with this and that. And I said, and your $5 million, I said, that was overturned by the Eighth Circuit. They said Mike was right. And it's not having baggage, it's called having the receipts. I said, if you have, and now as we go into these elections, yeah, there's still machines in most of the places. But we also know when they go to steal it, we know where to look. We know where you're not going to fool us this time around. The public will demand. I'm kind of hoping. Here's where I'd like my governor's race to go down, David. Wouldn't it be great if they steal it, blatantly steal it, and then for me, like a lot of these politicians over the last 4 years and especially the 2022 election, there were so many races stole from Christina Caramo, Jim Marchand, Matt DePerno, Kerry Lake, Mark Fincham. All of these people had their elections stolen. We had the evidence, the big old F curve, right? But none of them, other than a few, I believe Kerry Lake, so maybe the only one, that fought, that said, no, I want to recount. I want to look inside those machines. I demand it. Instead, they just backed off and said, and accepted that it was stolen from them, even though all the deviations said that they should look into it. I'll tell you what, ideally, they steal the election. And in Minnesota, if we're winning the primary, I have access to the source code. We happen to have in all three voting machines. We have Hart, Dominion, and ES&S, which is 95% of all the machines in the country, with ESS being the biggest one. So ideally, they would steal it. We'd all go in, the whole nation go, open them up. And then that leads to getting rid of them all once and for all in our nation. And then, of course, the real winners get put in place. So there's a lot of stuff, you guys, this fall, as we count down the days, the weeks, and the months, as we count down, as things are going to change, the footprint's going to change. But I will tell you this, as we get to that election, we'll have the best it can be based on the cards we're dealt at that time. You follow me? Whatever, we're going to have everything in safe, everything we can physically do to get that election as secure it can be, with the still having machines, still having this, still having that. Because one thing, you rob a diamond store multiple times, and you're investigating all these robberies in the same place, you pretty much know everything, where to look, where to see it, look afterwards, and everything. And we've got all the receipts for that.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, American government at this day and age, probably ever, it's not for the weak of heart. We need patriots, not politicians in office. And patriots don't mean you were a soldier. It means you love America. And Mike is a patriot. He's fighting for America, and he's not the weak of heart. And if all these people couldn't get anything done in the past in Minnesota, there's no way they're going to get things done if they become governor. So please vote for Mike. Tell your friends.
I would say they support the David. The ask right now would be help me out. You guys go to lindellgov.com, and donate. Help our campaign. And yes, of course, vote. But we've got to spread the word. One thing we are at, David, our time in history. Here's some hope for everybody. Our voice is the biggest it's ever been in the history of the world, bar none. Now, it's bigger than when Elvis Presley sang Aloha from Hawaii to what, 3 billion people back then or whatever, or a billion people. It set the record back then. Right now, our voice can go out when we tell something. You have 14 social media platforms, podcasts like your own here, remarkable. People are spreading the word, and we've got to spread the news of hope. And so I'm excited that on that. But you are correct. We have a lot of things going for us that all these politicians, and it's not necessarily having patriots. You guys, I want to make that clear too. Yeah, having patriots, but you need to add to that, David. You need, I think, having someone that knows how to run a business, especially if you're at a position like a governor. You need to know how to run a business, and a business, not only build one from scratch. I've done it from scratch many times with even no money, just going right from scratch, from inventing MyPillow to up here, but also to be able to, in the face of adversity, how do you keep the company, if there's some tragic thing that happens, how do you keep the boat floating, the business afloat? Nothing's happened to a business worse than MyPillow over the last 3 years, and we were able to keep it going by the grace of God. Another thing that I brought up to these committeemen that were on there when they were seeing if I'm an okay candidate going into the GOP, they brought up, how are you going to face the media and they talked about the courage or whatever. I said, there's one thing, I don't believe there's any other candidate that can, when you start getting towards the general election against the Klobuchar machine, the Democrat machine, that's a dirty thing out there. They fight, they're going to attack things that aren't true. It's that they raise it to a level that's unheard of. You know what? I've already been there. I've been there. And then once you get to have the courage, I only fear the Lord. I don't think, if you have that, when I get into be governor, you're going up against teachers unions, Monsanto with the farmers, and Bayer, these giants. And I don't care. If this is what I'm led to, what I got to do, I'm going to do it. And I've already been up against, when you're up against our own government and Operation Arctic Frost, you're up against lawfare and the most attacked person. If you go back to January 21, I was the most attacked person ever at that point until they flipped back to our president. But for that 4-month period, why were they attacking me more than any other person in company in history? Was because they wanted to silence me. If they silenced that, this election, all the election platforms, it never gets brought up again. It never gets brought up, and maybe it dies. Maybe it dies. I don't know. But all I know is they tried to kill our voice on January 7th and 8th of 21, when 1.2 million Americans were deplatformed. They put us all in a bucket. If you spoke out against the vaccine, if you spoke out against the 2020 election, or if you spoke out for Jesus Christ, you were deplatformed. Our president lost 100 million followers in one switch of the thing. Everyone was in shock then. I don't people thought, everyone was thinking so much of January 6th. Maybe they didn't realize the magnitude of silencing a sitting president, taking away his voice in 3 clicks. Ding, ding. You're deplatformed, old suckerbuck on Facebook, boom. Old Jack Dorsey's crooked Twitter, hold on, boom, 100 million people, you can't communicate anymore. That's it. And then when you combine that with lawfare, when Smartmatic sued Fox News, and all of a sudden the president couldn't even go on Fox News, Newsmax, or Salem Media, all these platforms. You silence a voice, it's over. Then you're in Iran or in North Korea. When you silence the people's voice and the communications are cut, it's over.
Yeah. And we know the media and Pelosi, they have those clips of her talking about this is the plan to infiltrate, and you take over the media and you use
Yep,
these
absolutely.
tactics, smoke and mirror, and you screw the people of America to get what you want, right? It's about winning, not what's right. But you're on the street, you're visiting, like you said, you broke the state of Minnesota down to 67 areas, and you're
67 districts, yep.
districts. So what are you seeing? You're talking to real Americans, real
Yeah,
Minnesotans. What are you
yeah,
seeing on the
each
street?
one, I put my teams there just like I built Cause of America, everybody, into 300,000 people strong. I led that. We had great teams leading that, great leaders leading leaders. So you have this starting for the top all the way down, and everybody, fighting for the cause. So you put these, as we do, we've done over 20 some events now. And as I do my town halls and these mini rallies right now, the people that come there, this is really interesting. They come there, they want to find out two things. One is, Mike, can we even win? And what makes you have a better plan than the other candidates? And then number two is, if you did win, what would you know about, or what would you do to help us here in Minnesota? And usually I've talked anywhere from 2 hours. One event the other day, I talked from 7 o'clock till 12:30 in the morning because I kept answering questions. People were free to leave, but I think there was probably 1/3 of the people stayed till midnight, after midnight, answering these questions because it was giving them hope. Okay, the plan to win Minnesota through me is, in a perfect world, I've got it's communication, which I've set up. I have my own platform, Vocal, everybody, VOCL, that's part of Lindell TV. Everybody get on that, I think, for the whole nation, but I'm having everyone in Minnesota get on that so we can communicate, and that will carry right into being governor. If we're getting blocked when I'm governor by the legislature and they want to get done something that's common sense, the people are going to know about it. I got a big mouth. You're going to, just like our president, you're going to know about it immediately. Back in the day when when I set up Lindell TV and he set up True Social, they complement each other. You have very much, but when I get down to, as you go around Minnesota, different ones have different concerns, but then they also have the big concern is, what's the use, or is there hope to even win? Or everything's coming out of Minneapolis and St. Paul. There's no chance. We're at the end. There was no hope before, but now there's zero hope, or it's just like a little dot. And I bring them that hope. By the end of the night, they're going, wow, they're so excited. And the other ones that were going to vote, the delegates are there that were going to vote for another candidate. I finally got to tell them, hey, once I'm in too, here's what I'm going to do. I haven't had a place yet where they came up and said, Mike, no, I'm not voting for you. Every one of them, it flipped. Everyone that I have talked to, it flipped to, you know what? Now that I've heard what you're going to do once you're in, and to plan to win, there is only one way to win. And that's through me, through winning. And that's it. The other ones don't have the need. They can't raise enough money. They can't, it's XXX, these boxes that aren't checked. And we all have the fraud that, yes, Amy Klobuchar was there as senator, and it got brought in and it happened under her watch too. But do they have enough money to put the word out there? Do they have enough people on social media? Do they have enough people, the reach that I have to get the word out? So I don't believe they do. If I thought they did, it's like the movie Armageddon. Here's what I've told them. Like the movie Armageddon, I don't know if you've seen it, David. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, absolutely. Bruce Willis and Ben
Yeah,
Affleck.
with Bruce Willis. You guys, it's one of my favorite movies. And the sci-fi movie, they go up to save the world, and they from this asteroid. I remember the daughter asking Bruce Willis, he said, Dad, why do you got to do it? And he said, because I don't trust anyone else to do it right, or to that can do it. And then he also said in that movie, he also said, when he told the government of the United States, he said, NASA, he said, I'll do it, but I bring in my team or I'm not doing it. They're the only ones that could get this done together. There's a lot of saying there. If I thought someone else could win, and I thought they would actually take the policies, the things I'm going to do in Minnesota once in is, and they were going to fulfill that, I would say, here you go. It's just like Donald Trump said 20, 30, 40 years ago. No, I'm not going to run for president unless, and then finally got to the point, I have to run because no one else is getting it done. And it's just, it's over if I don't. And that's basically what he said. And you go around Minnesota, I'll give you examples. Like I said, they all have the concern of Minneapolis, and things keep happening too. They keep raising flags. Target, this is breaking news here on your show too, that your listeners and watchers probably don't know. Target Corporation, Target's corporate offices are based in Minneapolis, everybody. Okay. They have a lease. There's about 4 years left on their lease. It's at the right downtown Minneapolis, right? They are moving. They bought their lease out, and for $110 million to just buy it out and move and say, we don't want to be down here. We don't want to be down here with the Sharia law and what's going on down there and the wokeness, even though they're the most woke, and I will say one of the most evil companies ever. They took God out of Target. They took the bell ringers out. They took God out of Christmas. But now they had to bring it back because of the public, of the whole public, or they would have lost their, it was somebody's decision within Target. Remember all the crazy stuff for our kids that they put into Target that they pulled out because somebody, they tried to push it on us.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I walked into a Target personally, and in the children's section of clothing, they had the satanic like statue or whatever it's
Yeah.
called, mannequin, and then they had all this absolutely filthy garbage all over the store. I didn't go back again.
Yeah. And they
And
had
that's
to, but it's disgusting. But David, think of this. They're leaving Minneapolis because they can't take it. I
yeah.
mean, I
And to
mean,
our
this is that.
listeners, if you're hearing $110 billion they're writing a check for,
Yeah.
that means they know they're going to save all that money and more, and it's a good business decision. That's how bad Tim Walz and all the
And
leaders
Mayor
have.
Fry have destroyed Minneapolis, the downtown. They, no, you're exactly right. And they're moving to the suburbs. This is their corporate office, everybody. There's a lot of targets that are, remember they, in Minnesota, they get burned up, closed or whatever. We have, we like to burn that, Waltz and them like to let stuff burn down our entrepreneurs, their businesses, just let them burn. Let the protesters go out there and destroy cars and property because when those two tragedies happen, so then you let protesters break the law. It's just bizarre. You know what I'm going to do, David, here, and then I'd like to give out a special we're doing at MyPillow before I forget, because this is where three sales collide. And then I want to tell this, if I can, the first time, probably the public's heard it, my plan for the illegals, which I believe is, and you might get, people might say yourself, you might say, Mike, this is the dumbest plan ever. But I'd like to do two things if I can. I want to get out the specials for MyPillow. You guys, we have three sales that are colliding. The first one is, remember, our factory moved. We moved factories, and the regulation in Minnesota, our racking, we're still waiting, David, for them to let us know how far we can build our racking in our own building. So we had to rent 120 semis to put product in for until we find out how high we can go with the racking and stuff. A lot of those semis are unloaded, but there's still some and then that are not unloaded. And we found that we have product in there to close out that we're never going to sell again. Our clothing line, our slippers, our My Slippers at $29.98, but all this 80% off that they were closing that out. And if you go to mypillow.com/remarkable, you guys, you're going to have that. And then the other sale, so you got the factory sale, the closeout sale, 80%. Then you got the Mega 2 sale. You could say MEGA, Mega, or Mega, MAGA. I don't care what you call it. And it's the biggest sale we've ever had on our 4 flagship products. The first one is our Giza Dream Sheets, as low as $29.98. The second one is our towels, $34.98 for a 6-piece towel set, the lowest price that we've ever offered. And then you got our My Pillows. Remember, we sold upwards of 85 million, but this is the standard size, $14.98. And then you have the MyPillow mattress topper made in the USA, low as $99.98. The last part, the third part of the sale, and then I'm gonna give you a bonus at the end, everybody. The last part of it is the Memorial Day, call it the Memorial Day month. We're gonna run till the end of till Memorial Day mattress sale. Our mattress, we have never done this before, is 50% off our mattresses, and some were closing out for as low as $299 per mattress. So there's some closeout ones, but then our flagship, the mattress I helped design, which is our coil mattress combined with foam, this technology that helps your pressure points and your delta sleep. It's amazing for your body. 6-month money back guarantee, 10-year warranty, and 50% off. And here it is, everybody. Here's the last bonus with that promo code Remarkable. Free shipping right to your front door, no matter what you order, from the smallest item to one of those mattresses, which they come delivered right in a box, easy to unroll, put in your bed, and you're sleeping great. And so that's it. Free shipping on your entire order. David, I don't know if you have that phone number, but my employees also that work from home on the call center, they were attacked 2 years ago, and the government said you can't work from home, and we won that, everybody, 2 years ago. So they've been, as we've been attacked, you guys have really supported my employee-owned company. And so I don't know, do you have that phone number for?
Yes, absolutely. The 800 number is 1-800-644-6612.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to see what time. I don't know if you mind. I would like to tell my plan for the illegals because it's nationwide. I believe this solves so much, and I haven't been. I don't want to be all over the board, but I'm going to try and sell it to you guys very fluently. Maybe is the word, but
No, and Mike, just so you know, and I'm sure the majority of our listeners, this is going to be the highlight because 999 out of 1,000 politicians run for office these days and they don't say what they're going to do, so they can't be held accountable. So I would
right,
love to hear your plan. I know
right.
America
And
would too.
this might be controversial what I'm going to tell you all. But I'm telling you, the manifestation of this, it solves things at every level. Because on pretext this, the illegals are here. They're here to stay. You ain't going to get rid of it just because they came across that border 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and maybe they've never committed a crime. And you're going door to door. A lot of people don't like that. Going, hey, this is the only crime that they ever committed was they did come here illegally. Which, by the way, everybody, remember, Biden basically said, come on in. So was that even illegal? You know what I mean? When you kind of say, come on in, it's okay, we'll take care of you in their mind. But that's just a pretext. Don't get me wrong. I don't like anything they should have been in line. I've been down in Florida where they come in legally. And that's another thing I'll say. When you come into our country legally, it's a long wait. It's very costly. It costs a lot. Back in the day, I know it was like $5,000 to $10,000 to go through the whole process, but I don't know the exact number today, but these are what I've heard from the league, people coming in legally. They want to learn English and so on. So here it is, everybody. And when I was out in California, I'm going to put my timer here so I don't run over.
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
actually going to reframe this just so when people are watching, we're going to use this as a clip, ladies and gentlemen, so you know it's coming. So,
Okay.
Mike, what is your plan as governor of Minnesota for illegals?
Okay. All right. So here it is. I go back, I believe it was like I want to say 2000, maybe 14 or 15, possibly 16. I was buying all the cotton, a lot of cotton in California, from the fields of California, the cotton fields. And I actually went there to do my due diligence and see why they're saying their cotton was the best cotton. It was called, the brand was Supima. It was Pima cotton, but the best of Pima. So anyway, I get down there and I meet with these farmers and these owners of these big plantations of cotton. And all of a sudden it came up. Now remember, everybody, I wasn't political back then. I didn't know anything about politics. I was making pillows, right? So I get down there and I'm talking to these guys, and they were one of the things that came up was the fields over there. They had hired all these illegals, and we got into this conversation, and they were paying them cash, underpaying them actually. So it's not that they cared about the illegals. They know the illegals couldn't tell on them. Okay. So the illegals couldn't tell on them. And now this guy, this owner's going, yeah, they're stealing from us. The money they're stealing and not paying taxes, the illegals aren't paying, and they're not even getting underpaid. The employer is not paying taxes in any sense. No workman's comp, no employment tax, no unemployment tax, no federal taxing, nothing, no state tax. Now this guy over here, his labor is added into his costs. It's the cost of doing business. He's cheating not only this guy over here in unfair competition, but he's cheating out of billions of dollars. Back then, it was in the billions and billions when I did the math in just California alone. Okay, now Also, it was brought up to me when we started talking about the illegals back then. You guys remember this 12 years ago, or 8, 10 years ago. And then they said, yeah, because we were talking about, I don't know if even sanctuary cities were a thing then, but they were obviously protecting things in California, protecting illegals. But he told me stories of, he goes, yeah, I have people here that tell me stories of people that are here legally, okay, that they're doing terrible things to the illegals, crimes, rape, anything you can name it, stealing from them. Because guess what? The illegals they couldn't go to the authorities and say, hey, they just did this to me. Does everybody follow that so far? Okay. So these people are not only basically slaves by these crooked employers that are paying them cash. I want everybody to think about that. Now, here's my plan. So you take the illegals that are here that have committed felonies that have committed gross misdemeanors and above. Okay, not counting that they came here illegally. Okay, these are crimes. In Minnesota alone, we have 1,300 illegals in our prisons that have committed felonies. We pay $85,000 a year for. $110 million is to house these felons that are here illegally. Those across the country, you get them deported to their own countries. We already have deals made with those countries where they go right from this prison to that prison and they're gone. Now you go down to the county level, and these are your misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors. Most illegals will commit a crime within the first 90 days. If they don't have work, they'll either be a driving offense or stealing something to survive. Okay. So now, but you've got that. So you have gross misdemeanors and you take them same way and they're out of here. Okay. Now here's what you do. Put in 120-day time limit or moratorium. Here's what you do. You have 120 days, illegals in this country, to go to your courthouse. You got to go to a courthouse and get fingerprinted to get a provisional visa. Now think of this, the name, Provisional Visa. Now here's what that is. You're not a citizen, okay? You're not a citizen. You can't vote, but you have this card. Now with that, you can go to the end of line to become a citizen, and you can also go get a license to drive. But when you go get a license to drive, you're not a citizen, remember, to get that. It's like in Minnesota when I had alcohol stuff and DWIs, I had on my card, it said B for boozer, basically, you're a drinker. So this would be the provisional driver's license with the one requirement too. You have to be able to read English and speak English. Okay. So you can't get a driver's license. That's part of that test. You can't get a license with that card. This should be for anybody. It should be a requirement for any driver, period. You should be able to read road sign. You should be able to read English and speak it. So now you have that, everybody. Now this person here, now at the end of 120 days, that's it. That's just a one-time thing done in our nation, okay? Now, who's not going to go to get those fingerprints? Is it going to be the felons and the people with gross misdemeanors? Because if they do, I'm sorry, you're gone. But people that have come here and never got a ticket in their life, they might be here 20 years, maybe born here, they never got a jaywalking ticket. And here's what you add on to that. You take the employers at the end of those 120 days, and if you hire any illegal or anyone that doesn't have that provisional visa and you're caught, you go to jail 6 months. I don't care. It's going to be so strict. It's going to be mandatory. So if you are a manager, the owner, the CEO, you're going to make that so strict. It's not going to be a fine as the cost of doing business. You're going right to jail. This has to stop in its tracks. These guys are the criminals of our country. You also have to take away everybody. It's called the $600 law, where businesses pay cash, or people pay cash to people, and it's tax free, and you can do it once a year. But everyone says, "Oh, I just did it today. I just did it today." California actually started taxing that years ago. You take away that, so now the savings in this country, it's trillions. It's not billions, it's trillions across our nation where you can't pay cash. And you're also where you're paying a real paycheck and everybody's paying taxes. And now here's what happens. Those illegals that are here that have been living in the shadows and worrying every day. It might be your neighbor. You never knew. 20, 25 years. I don't know. I found this, David. I met a lot of them in Minnesota going around. Some of them lived here 30 years. They never had a ticket. They're working. You wouldn't even know it's your neighbor. But the cost of getting to be a citizen, some of them have saved for years. They just can't get that money. So what you also do, everybody, is all the money you save, the trillions by these criminal employers that have been hiring these illegals, underpaying them like slaves. And by taking that money finally that we're coming into our country, and all of us as taxpayers, everything goes down. But you take that money and you know what you do? You hire people, more people to get people legal. Okay, so these people now that have those provisional, if they want to go get to be made legal, but another thing they have to do there, they got to learn English. So you got to learn it. That's a requirement. You want to be a citizen, you got to learn English. You make that part of it. You have to learn it, to read it and learn it, and that's it. You have to learn this. So now what that happens, and you make this, you don't charge them to go there. You can't charge $10,000 or no one can get to that point. So you use we fund it. But remember, we're getting trillions from these criminal employers. Now what happens is all the people here, the arguments that come out when you get Minneapolis going, oh, they're arresting people that are here. They're arresting people that are here legally. No, they're arresting people that you think were here legally, and it's a shame they've never done anything wrong. And the felons so you solve that problem, and you have a workforce, and you solve the problem of our English barrier. I go down to Minneapolis, the ATMs were in Somali, and I had to switch it to English. You guys, these you're not going to get rid of. And you know what? If the president would do this, the old saying that, oh, the Democrats, that these people that are voting illegally, you'd have to have this to vote. You'd have to have your license to vote. You can't vote. They're not a citizen. You can't vote with this card, this provisional visa. You can't vote. So then if you combine that with, you have to have a driver's license that has an ID to vote. But remember, to get a driver's license over here, it has that's stuck to it. So you still can't vote. You're not a citizen. But what it does then, it solves our workforce that say we don't have enough workers. You hear that, who's going to do this? Who's going to do this? The illegals are doing all this. They're doing all this hard work. Yeah, but now they don't have to live with that over their head. And whoever put this in place, they're probably going to vote for that person when they do become a legal citizen, because you've realized the burden lifted off of them that they've had to live in the shadows, and they do want to be a citizen, but they cost so much or whatever. I just think, and everyone's going, now, Mike, come on. I don't know how the president's going to take this when I bring it to him, but it's a common sense solution, because not just the ones Biden let in, but there's tens of millions of people here. They're not leaving, and you've got all these cities that are going protecting them, and the crime keeps going up. They're all not just protecting them, but then they're also protecting the criminals, and they're also hurting the illegals by not doing something like this, because crimes can be committed against them, and they can't say anything. They get underpaid by their employers, the real criminals, and they can't say anything.
Yeah.
So there's my plan, everybody. There's my plan. And I think I don't see any holes in it. And maybe everybody should be in agreement on it. Yeah. Oh, but Mike, they came here illegally. Well, you know what? Biden basically invited them here. So where do you draw the line? Come on in, everybody. Come on in. And if they haven't committed a crime while they're here, do you know how hard it would be to live in the streets, come here as an illegal, and you never committed a crime? So far, that's pretty amazing. But you've had to live by being underpaid cash by criminal employers. You follow me?
100%.
And by the way, there's one more thing, everybody. If you have one of these provisional visas and you ever you're convicted of a gross misdemeanor or better, you are deported and you never, ever get to come back to our country again, ever. So that's it.
Yeah, no, this protects, because there are so many great people who came to America and they did it the wrong way, but they really did want to have a better life. And that's what the quote unquote average American has this heartbleed over.
Right.
Now, I still have a different opinion because my family came over the right way and millions of people came over the right way. But there's a lot of great people who work hard and they just want to be an American. So this would solve that and would protect them from being abused by employers. Then on the corporate level, like you're talking about corruption, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not necessarily business minded, let's just say there's 10 t-shirt manufacturers and all the t-shirts cost roughly the same price of cotton right now.
Yeah.
There's people paying their taxes, knowing they're being exploited, but they're following the rules. So their profit margin is, say, 20%. I'm making up numbers.
Right.
There's going to be a huge difference. Then you have these people over here paying workers under the table, not paying taxes, breaking the laws, sometimes abusing these humans. Even though they're not Americans, they're humans, and they're making 50%. So when Mike proposes, or when anybody proposes something like this, those are the people loud and pay off the media and get on camera. And if you do this to us, your price of that t-shirt's going to go up. The fact is, it won't have to go up. Their profit margin will just go down.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what they deserve. So please make sure you have that in the right perspective. Mike, am I stating?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And I want to say two things because I got about 2 minutes left. I want to say two things that manifest to that too. So what you're left with, everybody, is you either have these employers that finally you give them an out. They've been cheating and stealing from their country for so long. They can be either come into play and do it the right way, or they're going to be called out and they're going to jail. Okay. But here's what it leaves. This is a beautiful thing, everybody. Everybody wants the worst of the worst gone. I don't care who you are. If you knew if you always see the argument in the street, this guy committed a rape over here, 16 rapes, and he's still not gone. Once you do this plan, okay, if you don't go down and get one of them cards in them 120 days, you're probably a very bad illegal. You've committed crimes because you don't want to do it. You don't want to go get the check vetted and fingerprinted. Now, what's left after you do this are the bad illegals. So you also put a whistleblower thing in there. So the other way, everyone else can say, hey, this guy doesn't have one of them cards and he's got to go. And also, so because he's bad, you sort out your bad people that are really bad. And if someone commits a crime after they got the provisional visa, they're in our system with their fingerprints, and we know who committed the crime, you guys. This is a big thing right now, the crime that's across our country, and you don't know who did it because he was illegal. Just this past week, MyPillow has had 2 trucks stolen by illegals that in Shakopee, Minnesota, where you find them, they take them for rent. They have nothing to lose. They're driving. That's just stealing a truck. But you understand what I'm saying. If you put this in place, the people that want to be legal are here, and then you know where the illegals are committing horrendous crimes, and you sort that from the horrendous criminal employers that have been stealing trillions from us, everybody. You get rid of that cash law, that $600 thing across this nation, and you watch our national debt go, bam. This is a win-win-win. I am going to be bringing this to the president.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to cut this short. Mike, thank you for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, please share this with your friends and family. Mike, what's the domain again?
LindellGov.com. LindellGov.com. LINDELGov.com. Donate. We need your help. We got to win, everybody. This is it.
That's it. And share this with your friends and family. We love you. Have a great day. God bless America. And we'll see you in the next episode. Ciao. Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely hope this show has inspired you. The whole purpose of the Remarkable People podcast is to inspire you, to motivate you into action, to help you have an even better life, to overcome things you've not yet been able to overcome, or to grow to the next level that you never thought possible. And all of this, not just to benefit you in this world, but to have you come to a relationship with God where it grows every day stronger, and not just this world is blessed, but your eternity is blessed. And we sincerely want to do just that and to glorify God. And we hope with this episode, we accomplish that. If we did, please let me know. It's great to be encouraged and to spread the word to our remarkable guests that it helped in your life. If we didn't, let me know. Write me an email. You can go to davidpasqualone.com, go to our contact us page, and let me know what you think. I got tough skin. Let it rip. Anything you can think of to make this a better podcast, to help you grow and to glorify God, I'm in. So that's it. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for sending us feedback. If we can help you in any way, let us know. And if you can spread the word about the Remarkable People podcast, share the episode to your friends, your family on social media, it would be a huge honor and blessing. Again, I'm not trying to be the most famous podcast in the world for my benefit. I truly want a podcast that's the best podcast in the world to help as many people as we can to have a better life, come to know Christ, to grow in the Lord, and to have that salvation so they can be with God in peace and joy in eternity. And right now we're together on this earth, so let's do everything we can to work together and help each other grow. Like the Bible says, love the Lord thy God is the first commandment, and the next commandment is to love thy neighbor as thyself. So let's do it together. I'm David Pasqualone. I love you, not as much as God loves you, but if I can help you in any way, just ask. And again, please share this with your friends and family so we can help them too. Ciao. See you in the next episode.
The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People Podcast.